Hi, welcome to Lax Unpacks. This is episode one. Holy moly, episode one. I really can't believe it, but I can because I'm here. That's me doing it. Um, I've already recorded this episode and I have already said, so I recorded the episode and I realized that I said, so much. So I'm trying to re record and not say so much. We will see. I don't know if I can do it. Also, since I'm re recording and it's later in the evening, I should say I'm going to preface this with this is going to be an 18 plus podcast. There's probably going to be a lot of swearing. Not a lot. I'm going to try, but there will be some swearing. I cannot stop them all. Sometimes I have no filter, and this is my space. You're welcome to come along. If I'm not for you, I totally get it. We can coexist, and that's okay. I thought I would throw in, though, a tarot reading because I am bevied and baked. I have a coffee with hazelnut creamer, it is superior, and I have partaken. So I've already set my intention with my tarot deck, and my intention really is just to it's to get a vibe check. Should I continue going? Am I on a good path? Is it good for me, I guess? Or is this excitement something that is part of my brain's unusual disorder of hopping through every single hobby I've ever had and getting really excited by something and then totally, just dropping the ball? However, we're here. I have my deck. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to do a three-card draw. So, my first one, I have the lovers. Ooh, interesting. Celebrating the love in my life. That is really cute. This is also, I'm doing this with my meaning tarot deck. I am just a baby tarot diver right now. So, I'm still learning. I am trying to be off book eventually. However, I still need my tools. So, bear in mind, getting back to it. This is inspiration, motivation, love, beauty, action, commitment, choices, and unity. I think that is a strong card. I really do. That gives me some good feelers. So, into card number two, we have. Ooh, ooh, we have. That's really cute too. We have the Three of Cups. Um, it is not inverse, so it's just traditional upright. But this is celebrating your successes with those you care about. That is really cute. As part of this, in full transparency, I am doing this under an alias, and a very few select people in my life know my true identity. Shout out to y'all, real ones, if you do listen. But that's really cute that I have celebrating your successes with those you care about. This card is also about supporting, sharing, celebration, problem resolution, gladness, bounty, joy, friendship, and society. Wow, good feelers from that one too. Let's go for number three. I gotta get the vibe on it. I can't just pull a random. All right, number three. We have inverse. Inverse Knight of Pentacles. Ooh, okay, so this is also very valid. It's representing a lack of courage, jealous, grasping, unreliable, obsession with work, stubborn. Those are all qualities I do have. I work uh, quite a few hours a week at my regular job, but I'm doing this more as a hobby and finding the joy in that. But lack of courage, for sure, I can see. I was like leading up to this recording and I was so nervous. I don't understand why. I was going into this whole thing with a lot of lack of stress, right? We're lax unpacks. We are not stress unpacks. So I was going into this with a lot of nervousness and an edge, I guess, about it. But I need to remind myself that I'm doing this. I'm so sorry if you hear I'm putting my cards back in their deck and thanking them so much. Um, oh, I said again. It's okay. I apologize if you hear mouth noises. I don't have the best setup for recording right now, but I'm also just vibing and checking this out and seeing where it goes. It may go nowhere, and it may just be for me, and I'm okay with that. That's totally fine. But until I invest any of my hard earned money, I don't want to waste it on a hobby because I know myself. I really, really do. If any of you are like that, I commiserate so much. I am medicated and in therapy, which is very helpful. But should we move on to the I almost said case. You can tell I listen to too many podcasts also. I love them though. And I just feel like I understand. I told my husband this. I told him that I understand why people say that they enjoy doing podcasts because this whole thing started not that long ago, but I've just been like, I really want to do it. I want to do it so bad, and I don't understand why. And I don't even feel like I have a right to have a voice. I am a 30-year-old white person and of no real importance in the world. I'm sure I'll do an episode on that someday. But I'm here anyway, and if you're here, we can be here together on Lax Unpacks, and we can talk about Henry Box Brown today. Henry Box Brown. Oof, this was a interesting one. Really crazy details came to light when I was going through it. I found this on a Reddit post. I think it was on Uncovered History. I could be wrong, but I saw a post about it and I was like, that is insane, crazy that it happened. And then I got into an article, excuse me, written by Miranda Lear. She wrote an article that was so well written and it was laid out so well. So many thanks to Miranda Lear. You can find the article if you want to read it on historydefined.net. That is historydefined.net. And it's a really interesting article, but I'm kind of going to tell you a lot of it today. But if you do want to read it, there's some pictures and all of that, and then some details I didn't include. So it's a good article. It's a good read. Also, side note, I don't know if you care about my life or the details I am willing to share with you all, but I went to see How to Train Your Dragon, and I tell you to run, don't walk. Oh, it's so good, you guys. It's not an ad, I promise, but it's so good. It was so well done, and my love was in it. Sorry, honey, if you're listening, but Gerard Butler, chef's kiss. He is my celeb crush for sure. I know 100% in my heart of hearts that he will never hear this, so I have no shame. But oh, he was in it. It's super exciting. But it was really great, and I cried like 4 times watching it with no shame. There was a few times I had to squeeze my husband's hand so hard because I was so sad for Toothless. If you haven't seen it, even in its original form, you should see it. But it just go. It's so good. Anyway, back to why we're all here, right? Mm, bevy break. I'm so sorry. I should cut these things out, but honestly, if it's just gonna be me and a few of my besties, who cares? We're humans, right? We don't always have to edit everything out of our lives. We can show that we have flaws, right? Ooh, I break into accents a lot. If that bugs you, just don't even bother. Don't even bother. Uh, it's just part of me. It's ingrained. Okay. All right. So I really am struggling with what to name this episode, but I'm gonna obviously have to figure it out by the time I post. I'm going with slavery to slideshows, or slavery escapes, or just the traditional Henry Box Brown. But it's a really interesting case that I had never heard of. If you've heard of it, that is really cool. You can totally not ride along on the struggle bus with me, but you can listen or let's just do it, you know? So, Henry Box Brown. In 1859, Henry Box Brown escaped from Virginia by shipping himself in a small crate labeled dry goods. Yeah, that's right. He shipped himself across across an ocean. I'm pretty sure it was an ocean. Oh, don't quote me. You guys, I'm dumb. I don't claim to be smart. But he shipped himself on a boat in a crate. This crate was 3 feet by 2 feet by 1.5 feet in dimension. You could totally make yourself one out of a cardboard box and see if you could fit inside of it. I should do that actually and see if I can fit because I can't imagine, even as a smaller human being than me, fitting inside that crate. However, yes, he shipped himself in a crate. There are some articles that say 3 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, but you get the idea. It's small. He actually ended up upside down for a lot of the journey, many, many hours. It was gruesome, but he made it. He ended up escaping to Philadelphia and lived quite a long life and ended up, kind of happy, I guess. But before we get into the end of his life, we should get into the beginning of his life, right? I would think. I would think that's the proper flow. In my notes, I can tell because in my notes I put start with a little arrow on this section of my notes. So I think I think that's where I'm gonna start. All right. Henry Box Brown, that's kind of a nickname. Henry was born on a plantation near Yanceyville in Louisa County, Virginia. He had three brothers and four sisters, and they were all slaves. They were all slaves under John Barrett, a former mayor of Richmond, Virginia. Oof, just starting it off the bat, oof, right? When John died, so the owner, John Barrett, when he died, they were shipped to William Barrett's son. So William was a kind of a tobacco tycoon type guy, right? They basically were in the whole scene of tobacco. Shocker, I know. It's crazy. Who would have thought? Wow. But anyway, okay, so he ended up with William. He was a slave for a tobacco factory. Again, 18 plus. This is why. Because I put down fucking shocker, right? Slave at a tobacco factory. Fucking shocker. Henry's siblings were then sent to another plantation, and not all of them went to the same plantation. They were kind of scattered through a lot of different plantations, all except one of Henry's sisters, Martha. Poor Martha was sent to William Barrett and forced to be his mistress. I kind of hate that it says mistress because let's be real, she was a sex slave to the guy, and that is really, really awful to think about. But yes, everyone except for Martha got sent off. Martha and Henry stayed with William Barrett. In 1836, Henry married Nancy. She was another slave under John Barrett. They had three children, which is that's a lot of kids. Honestly, I have one, and that's enough. But they had three kids. Brown was very religious, and so was the family. They were part of First African Baptist Church. They were part of the congregation for quite a while. They went weekly, and Brown ended up singing in the choir. Luckily for him, this helped him because in the choir there was also a man named James Caesar Anthony Smith. This, what a long pause. I think I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to make you suffer through that. This is where James Caesar Anthony Smith and Henry Fox Brown met. They started talking together, and Henry, oh, I'm so sorry. No, James, this is where I get confused, you guys. James had helped free slaves before. So Henry met up with James and they started talking. But also in the meantime, some very unfortunate news is that Nancy and the children were sold and sent to North Carolina. This sent Henry into a very, very understandable long depression, like months and months and months of depression. Barely could get out of bed, except for obviously having to go take care of duties as a slave. But this is also where it sparked a lot of interest in Henry to escape, to fight for freedom, honestly, just get out of whatever it was that he was in currently. So luckily for him, he met up with James Smith and they devised a plan to get Henry out, right? Get him out somehow. They also reached out to a man named Sam Smith. Did I already talk about Sam Smith? No, not the singer, unfortunately. Um, I have his full name listed somewhere. But Sam Smith, he was a bootmaker and a gambler. Honestly, same. If I could be, I would be. If I could just make shoes all day and gamble, like I would be fine with that. But Sam agreed to help the two of them. But Sam ain't a saint, right? He did it for money. He needed to be paid to do this for them. But still, I do commend his ability to help an African American in the 1850s and risk a lot of things in his life to make that happen. So, ain't a saint, but still did some commendable deeds. He agreed to help them, and this is where they came up with the box idea. So, they had met a few times and they had intended to send the box by rail. Somehow, it ended up where he was on a steamboat. I don't know much more about how that happened, but their intention was to have him going by railway. He ended up on a steamboat. Either way, he made it out, so it's really great. They also reached out to a to a gentleman named James Miller McKim. He worked at Pennsylvania Anti-Slave Society, and this was also connected to the Underground Railroad. So lots of big stuff happening all at one time, lots of connections being made, which was really good. It's what they needed to do. But I think they were really about to make it happen. And then finally, on March 23rd, 1849, they put the dude in the crate, you guys. They put Henry Box Brown in his box, his namesake. They labeled dry goods on the side of it, and they put him on a boat. And what also shocked me about this was he's 33. He was 33. That is so around the age I am. And it it really hit me. Like I could not imagine getting into a box. But I know that because of my privilege, right? I don't have to think about it because I was never in the situation where I was enslaved. I guess I could imagine pretty much doing anything to escape that. But they boarded this ship. And by they, I mean Henry and his box. They were transferred to a steamboat, and he was upside down for many, many, many hours, as I mentioned, I think, in the beginning. But he was upside down for a long time. It had caused his eyes to bulge out of his skull. Yeah, that really would not be fun. And his temples were pulsing, and that is where he thought he was going to die. And he very well could have, but luckily he did not. A crewmate, not a crewmate, but a crew member of the steamboat that he was on board had tipped his crate onto its side in order to sit down and have a chat with one of his other crew members. So luckily, something was looking out for Henry that day, and they lifted up the side of the box, and he was able to safely make his way to Pennsylvania. Also, I'm so funny, you guys. I didn't say it, but it says human package arrived in Pennsylvania. Philly. I added that. Philly. Anyway, he arrived in Pennsylvania at the Anti Slavery Society office. When the box opened, Brown apparently got out and recited a psalm. You can look up this psalm if you want to on Wikipedia. I did not read it or sing it because you don't want to hear me sing it. And also, it's very long, but you can look it up on Wikipedia and read it if you would like to. But he got out of his box and he recited a psalm. Anywho, he got settled a little bit, and then he ended up going to a New England anti-slavery convention. And can I just say, like, wow, how progressive for the 1850s that there was a anti-slavery convention that they like were not afraid to host, and I commend them for doing that and being activists in their community. But this took place in Boston. He sang the psalm that he recited, when he got out of his box for all of the people who were there at the convention, and it moved a lot of people. They were very interested in his story and how he escaped to slavery or to freedom, honestly. So he then attended regular abolitionist meetings. Through these meetings is where he got to know another famous abolitionist. Is it's Frederick Douglass. Oh, you guys, I'm so weird. I'm like listening to me speak about Frederick Douglass, and I'm like, you guys, it's Frederick Douglass. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. Anyway, if you don't know about Frederick Douglass, you can also look it up on Wikipedia. I would recommend it. So a little while later, Charles Stearns writes a book and publishes it, and it's a memoir of Henry's escape. The Narrative of Henry Box Brown is what it was called. I have not read it, but I think I would, honestly, if I could find it. I don't know if I could find it, but I will see if I can find it. It would be a good read, I think. So he writes and publishes this book, Charles Stearns, and him and Henry Box Brown end up going on a book tour together. And they would tour together until 1849 in November. So they would tour, and sometimes Box would recite his psalm that he recited when he came out of the box. But a lot of it was just talking about the books, right? It's about the money, honey. We can't forget that. But he was on this book tour until November of 1849. And then on May 8th, Sam Smith. So if you remember, Sam Smith is the one that was the bootmaker and the gambler and the one that first helped get them into crates, right? Or get Henry into a crate, right? He was the one that like helped make that happen for them. Sam Smith attempted this again with another group of slaves. Unfortunately, this time they did end up getting caught. So I was really honestly shocked at the outcome based on the time frame. I did not expect this good of an outcome. Uh, but he only ended up getting 6.5 years in prison. So it really sucks that he was in prison for that long, and I'm really sure that the conditions in that prison were not ideal. But he didn't die from it. So I think I would take that as a win. So he did end up getting caught. Unfortunately, I would assume that not great things happened to the slaves. Hopefully, uh, I don't even know hopefully is the right word, but they may have been sent back to their owners. I hope that they were not executed, but he was convicted and sent to prison. James Caesar Anthony Smith, if you remember him, he was the one that was the choir member that originally helped Henry Box Brown get in touch with Sam Smith. He ended up evading capture until September 25th of 1849 for his involvement in all of these things. But the jury ended up not really being able to decide what to do with him. So he actually avoided imprisonment altogether. So go James. Go James Caesar salad. Good job. Avoided prison. So I think we should talk about his artistic side. So Henry Box Brown had an artistic side, I would say. A lot of people would say, not just me. But it kind of, it was a little weird. It's okay though. I'm a little weird. I have no judgments here. So, the side of artistry of Henry Box Brown. All right. So Brown ended up hiring an artist called named Josiah Wolcott. He hired this artist to create a moving panorama that he could travel with and show people. This panorama was about the bondage of slavery. It was called Henry Box Brown's Memoir of Slavery. It was in Boston at the time and it released April 11th in 1850. It took place all summer long. So I think, again, this is like really crazy progressive to me that he had this exhibit about slavery. But again, I need to learn so much more about history, honestly, but we can do that together, right? All right, so anyway, throwing a wrench into Henry Box Brown's beautiful, impeccable plans to have the happiest time of his life because he just escaped freedom or to freedom, right? He was in his happily ever after phase. Not so much. The Fugitive Slave Bill came out, and that really, really, really put a wrench into a lot of the plans and a lot of the lifestyle that Henry had. Brown ended up getting assaulted in Providence, Rhode Island. Providence, Rhode Island, which really sucks. I don't know many more details other than the fact that he was assaulted. But this also prompted him to travel to England with James Caesar Anthony Smith, and they left in October of 1850. They travel to England. In England, he continues his exhibits. He goes to Liverpool, Manchester, Yorkshire, and he does all of this until the spring of 1851. So, about a year after he got to England. He also published his own autobiography in Manchester in May of 1851, and he titled it The Narrative of the Life of Henry Box Brown. Again, I haven't looked for this book, but I am going to, and I think I am definitely going to read it. It if I can just dive deeper into this topic, I will. But we only have so much time for today. So, Brown and Smith, right? They're kind of business partners. They're touring together, they're doing a lot together, they traveled together, moving to England, and all of that. It starts to sour. I don't know a lot more other than they kind of started to just fight about money. It all comes down to money, doesn't it? It just does. All the time. Money drives the world. However, not kind of in the way that you think. It ended up being because Smith was accusing Henry of not doing enough to buy back his wife and three children. Because remember, Nancy, his wife, Miss Nancy, she and her three children, and also she was pregnant with their fourth child, all were sold off and shipped to North Carolina. So Smith was really upset with Henry for not doing more to get them back. And honestly, I could see that. I could see being upset about that, right? But I also wasn't there and I have no idea what the story looked like. So I'm not going to place blame where I have no idea where to throw that dart. I don't even have a dart. All right, moving on. James Smith condemned Brown to other activist groups now. So James Smith is super unhappy with Henry and the way that he's being treated and or treating his other family that are incognito somewhere in North Carolina. But James Smith starts condemning Henry to all of his friends in the abolitionist activist groups. And then Brown decides to then leave all of these activist groups. And he goes into show business. Yes, show business. This is the slavery and sideshows episode that I was gonna name it. The show business we speak about, that would be more traveling with the panorama that he had made for him. He did that, and then in 1857 he started performing as a hypnotist. That's where I got excited. I was like, he was a hypnotist in the 1850s? Like, who was out there teaching people how to be a hypnotist? Like there had to be people, right? Just out there teaching people how to hypnotize people. I don't understand it, but apparently he was really good at it. Um, he also did a performance as an African prince, and he would go into his original box during this performance and just wowed the crowd with his story and his panorama and his little hypnotism spiels. You know, he was really doing a lot of things to make it in this world. You know, sometimes we have to. We just gotta. He also filed a libel case against a newspaper that printed a racial slur. And guess what? He won. Again, like the 1850s. The 1850s of it all, you know? But he won. He won his case, his libel, which go Henry. Go Henry. But going back to how incredible his shows were, I did see a review. There's kind of some indication that this may or may not have been directly linked to Henry Box Brown's time doing his showside perform or his roadside performances. but I'm gonna think it is. It's just too good to be true. One of the reviews reads, Professor Box Brown, the recital has left a marked impression on the minds and ears of the people. So take that as you will. I don't know 100% how to take it. I'm going to take it as a compliment for him, though. He really left his mark on the minds and ears of the people, just like me. JK. So in 1859, he remarried. I mean, he got remarried and he had a daughter. So he lived in Toronto with his wife and daughter, his new wife and daughter, before passing away on June 15th, 1897. His wife's name was Jane Floyd. I did not find the name of his daughter. But yeah, he kind of got his happily ever after and lived in Canada. And good for him, honestly. If I could be in Canada, I would. But I'm not. So I'm happy. It was sort of a happy ending. I'm really sad, and I would love to know more about his other children and his wife, Nancy, because that's just really sad that they kind of just got left behind by him, you know. But also, again, I cannot claim to know his story or him or anything about it other than what I've read and spewed out into the universe now. But there are some things that you can go see or watch if you want to know more about Henry Box Brown. I would definitely recommend reading the books I already mentioned. But again, honestly, I'm not even sure if you can find them. So if you can find them, read them. I'm going to do the same. But there are some things that you can go see. So we're going to talk about Henry Box Brown's legacy. And oh my gosh, wow, lots of stories, lots of stuff to consume. Here are a few though. I'm just going to give you a couple. In Virginia, at the Historical Society in Richmond, you can go see one of three of the originals of the lithograph by Samuel Rouse. So he was an artist. It was used and made to raise funding for Henry's anti slavery panorama. So the panorama that Henry was touting around at all of his events and things. It was used to raise money for that. But you can go see one of the three originals of that lithograph. And it's just a picture of him emerges. And I had this struggle with the last episode, you guys. I cannot believe it's happening again. But I'm gonna try and get through this sentence. It depicted Brown emerging from his shipping box. I keep wanting to say emergencying from his box. I don't know why, but I did it, you guys. I did it. There's also a monument along the Canal Walk in Richmond, Virginia. It's just a metal reproduction of the box itself. I think you can like get in it. Hopefully, that would be cool. It's definitely I would it you know if I'm ever in Richmond, Virginia, that is definitely a stop I'm going to make is to the box. There's also in Louisa County, and if you don't remember, Louisa County is where Henry Box was born. Henry Box Brown was born. Say that 5 times fast, you guys. It's really, really hard. But in Louisa County, where he was born, there's a historical marker honoring Henry's escape from slavery. Tony Kushner also wrote a play entitled Henry Box Brown, and it premiered in 2010. I don't know if that's available online anywhere. I haven't looked. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can find it. There's a children's book named Freedom Song: The Story of Henry Box Brown, written by Sally M. Walker. I am totally going to look for that book as well. And last but not least, I know I've already told you this, but you can go on Wikipedia and learn so much more information. And again, you can go on history? You can go on historydefined.net and read the article by Miranda Lear where I got a lot of my information. Again, very well written. Thank you so much. And you can look up the psalm that he recited when he got out of his box on Wikipedia. But that's all I have. That is what I know so far about Henry Box Brown. I hopefully will know more in the future as I look up articles and books and all of that. And thanks for coming along on my tarot ride. It wasn't included in the pre-recording. See, I'm gonna start calling it pre-recordings. Yeah, that way I don't have to sound like a doofus for not being good at stuff. Anywho, Hopefully, if you guys liked this, you'll hear from me again. But if not, I'm just spewing into the universe. And thanks, universe. I really appreciate you being here and listening to me talk about stuff that I find interesting. And enjoy the rest of your evening, universe, and listeners, if there are listeners. You guys hear my S's? Sorry. Okay, bye.